All right, y'all, grab a seat, silence your group chats, and keep your screenshots ready because Blueface didn't even let the last scandal cool off before serving us a fresh, steaming, triple-strength pot of drama. We've got Hazel E stepping into the picture, a mystery side piece named Nivea, old exes allegedly still orbiting the situation, and Chrisean reportedly spiraling online. All while Blueface seems unbothered, undefeated, and fully booked in the chaos department. And trust me, the deeper we go, the messier it gets. So let's begin. For a moment, the internet actually thought Blueface was going to lay low, regroup, and maybe handle life behind the scenes after coming home. People assumed he would focus on family, music, business deals, and rebuilding his image, especially after everything that went down publicly before his incarceration. There was a tiny window where it looked like he was going to move in silence instead of broadcasting chaos. But that silence didn't last long. Before any real reset could happen, new footage and screenshots started circulating online, and within hours, social media timelines flipped right back into Blueface territory. The internet barely had time to close one tab before another situation popped up, proving that Blueface's name stays trending even when he says nothing himself. Fans joked that he must have permanent residency in the algorithm because controversy seems to find him instantly. And that's when people started connecting the dots. It wasn't just random comments or vague rumors. Actual video clips began spreading, showing Blueface appearing very comfortable and flirty with Hazel E at Meme House Productions in Los Angeles, a location known for content, collaborations, and nightlife-type energy. They weren't acting distant or cautious on camera. Instead, they looked playful, relaxed, and like two people who already knew each other well, not like strangers testing the vibe. But the real eyebrow raiser was their interaction, not just their location. In one of the videos, Hazel E called Blueface King, and instead of brushing it off, laughing awkwardly, or changing the subject, he responded in a way that suggested he didn't mind the perception at all. The interaction felt comfortable, familiar, and confident, which immediately fueled speculation that this wasn't just a random link-up, but possibly the soft launch of something fans hadn't seen yet. So naturally, the internet demanded answers. How long has this really been going on? At first glance, a lot of fans assumed Hazel and Blueface were brand new acquaintances, maybe something that sparked after his release, or possibly just a collab link-up for views, clout, or business content. But that assumption didn't survive long because people quickly started pointing out that this wasn't the first time these two crossed paths, not even close. And that's when the timeline got interesting, sources who claimed to have been around before. Blueface even had mainstream fame allege that Hazel and Blue initially met around 2018, which means their connection goes back before several of his most public relationships. The idea that they already had history instantly changed how fans interpreted the videos. It suddenly became reconnection energy, not new fling energy. And once that detail surfaced, the tone of the conversation shifted. People began speculating that these two stayed in contact on and off, even while Blueface was in the spotlight with other women, suggesting that Hazel may have been someone he checked in with quietly, not someone who randomly entered his story. Whether it was friendship, flirtation, unfinished chemistry, or simply nostalgia, their past connection made the present make a lot more sense. But here's where it gets even more layered. No matter how many times they tried, life, drama, timing, and circumstances always seemed to block anything real from developing. According to those close to the situation, Blueface's life has never been peaceful or private, and Hazel's reality TV history hasn't exactly been quiet either, so the idea of them trying to build something in the middle of chaos was never going to be easy or smooth. And now that the distractions are different, the door appears open again. With Blueface back home and re-entering his usual social circles, insiders claim that this time they are casually dating, which raised even more eyebrows because casual dating in Blueface's world looks very different than the average person's definition. Casual could mean emotionally open, non-exclusive, low expectation, public when convenient, and private when necessary. And right when fans were trying to process that dynamic, people also started questioning what casual truly means in this situation, because dating Blueface casually could easily turn into a full-time emotional endurance test, especially considering his recent and ongoing involvement with other women. It left fans wondering whether Hazel was aware of the relationship roster, or if she was simply comfortable enough not to care, or if boundaries were never discussed at all. And before anyone could decode the meaning of casual, the plot twisted again. Just when people were working overtime to understand where Hazel stood, another twist slid into the timeline. And her name was Nivea. This wasn't someone Blueface simply liked a post from, followed, or joked with online. This was someone he publicly introduced, interacted with on camera, and allowed into his personal living space, which instantly escalated the situation from rumor to real-life involvement in the eyes of fans. And that's where the narrative took a sharp turn. Based on what circulated, Nivea wasn't just visiting for a few minutes. She appeared to be comfortable recording content inside Blueface's home, where viewers recognized the studio setup, countertops, and environment that had been seen in past posts. Fans interpreted that as proof that this wasn't a quick link-up, but something that had trust and access, two things Blueface doesn't casually hand out. But the part that raised eyebrows wasn't just her presence, it was her confidence. Not only was Nivea filming at his place, but she brought a friend, giving the impression that she believed she had the right, not just the invitation. Viewers pointed out that bringing a friend into someone's home usually means you feel safe, welcome, and unthreatened, and that instantly broke the internet's mental scoring system regarding who truly had priority or presence in Blueface's life. And then came the moment that shifted perceptions completely. A separate clip reportedly showed Blueface and Nivea in bed together, where they discussed why he supposedly felt better with her, and that single moment cemented the impression that she was not a side rumor, but an active participant in his romantic rotation. Fans immediately labeled her the side piece, but at that point, it wasn't clear if that was internet language or the actual dynamic. And if that wasn't complicated enough, the exes re-entered the storyline. While fans were trying to decode roles, Blueface suddenly shifted the conversation by addressing his exes publicly, claiming that during his incarceration, they didn't fully hold him down the way he expected. He clarified that it wasn't about sexual loyalty, but about support, effort, and consistency while he was unable to control his own environment. And that statement instantly caused online tension. He specifically mentioned Jaidyn, Alexis, Chrisean Rock, and Angela, saying that while he understood people still live their lives, he believed they fell short in ways that mattered to him personally, especially financially. He implied that physical loyalty meant nothing if emotional and practical loyalty wasn't present, but things escalated further when he got into specifics. He mentioned details like commissary, making it clear that for him, support inside mattered more than relationship labels outside, and that when someone chooses not to contribute to basic survival needs, they disqualify themselves from claiming loyalty. This instantly made people question who actually cared, versus who was just connected to the name. That opened the door for receipts, counter-arguments, and digital evidence. Jaidyn immediately responded not with emotion, but with screenshots, posting commissary receipts and confirmation emails showing multiple payments under Blueface's inmate ID dated throughout spring and summer 2024. She claimed she was sending weekly packages until she was told to stop, implying her support was real, ongoing, and documented. And that instantly changed the conversation. The receipts contradicted the assumption that she abandoned him, instead suggesting she tried to balance real-life responsibility, motherhood, and personal boundaries while he was away. She implied that she wasn't begging for attention or validation, she was simply showing what she did quietly. But that proof didn't silence everyone, it sparked a new wave. Jaidyn also hinted that she wasn't dependent and didn't ask for anything in return, claiming her actions were about support, not self-benefit. She emphasized that she never requested money from him, and that became a key point in how fans judged who acted out of love and who acted out of pressure. And that's when Chrisean stepped into the debate with her own truth. Chrisean responded by saying she would never financially support someone who was allegedly cheating on her, implying that trust was already broken before he was even sentenced. To her, loyalty wasn't measured by dollars sent, but by whether the relationship was honest, exclusive, and emotionally safe. But she didn't stop there. She accused both Blueface and Jaidyn of using her for public narrative convenience, saying she gave real love, time, and effort, not performative gestures. In her eyes, she was genuine, yet was mocked, criticized, or used as leverage while others were rewarded publicly. And then she brought in a heavy accusation about parenting. Chrisean also alleged that Jaidyn took Blueface's kids from him, only to later ask him for money, and she emphasized that he didn't owe anything immediately after release, implying that he needed time to rebuild. This turned the conversation from relationship loyalty into family dynamics, making it even more emotional. And once things became about children, the situation escalated quickly. What truly sent shockwaves through social media wasn't just the back-and-forth posts, and it was when reports surfaced that Jaidyn and Chrisean allegedly ran into each other in public, specifically at an arcade, where both women were present with children nearby, which instantly raised concerns about location, timing, and emotional state. People expect arguments online, but real-life contact adds a completely different level of risk and intensity. And once they were face-to-face, things went downhill fast. Witness accounts online claimed that the two exchanged heated words, with both sides reportedly accusing the other of being irresponsible, jealous, manipulative, or obsessed, depending on who you ask. The argument allegedly escalated loud enough and fast enough that other people in the arcade began recording, whispering, or clearing space because they could sense the tension was too high to ignore. But that argument didn't stay verbal for long. Rumors spread that things got physical, requiring security guards and staff members to step in and separate them before it turned into something legally serious. Some online claims even stated that insults involving each other's children were thrown, which many people labeled as crossing the line beyond typical relationship drama. When children become part of the argument, the emotional damage expands past adults, and that's where fans began expressing frustration, sadness, and concern instead of just popcorn reactions. And during all this public chaos, one person seemed noticeably absent. While all of this unfolded, it appeared that Blueface was not physically present, nor did he step in or publicly mediate afterward. To most viewers, that made the situation even more exasperating because the conflict centered around him. Yet the consequences fell solely onto the women, both publicly and emotionally. Social media began questioning whether he intentionally stays neutral, avoids accountability, or simply views relationship conflict as entertainment rather than responsibility. And with emotions running high, fans started trying to understand the relationship rankings. At this point, the public perception of relationship roles became almost impossible to map, because every woman associated with Blueface seemed to have a different form of connection or history, making it unclear if anyone was the main, the favorite, the stable choice, or the permanent one. Instead of a structured relationship, fans described it as a rotating emotional roster, where titles are temporary and loyalty expectations shift depending on the day. And things only get more confusing when you examine individual involvement. Hazel appears to be presented online as the main casual partner, meaning she is currently the most visible and most acknowledged, but without being labeled as exclusive or official. Nivea is viewed as the active side involvement because she has been inside the home, recorded content with him, and shown confidence, which typically implies access and emotional approval, even if not publicly titled as a girlfriend. But those aren't the only names still in orbit. Angela's name resurfacing gives the impression that Blueface never fully closes doors. He simply rotates entry points, which means past partners may reappear at any time, depending on emotion, opportunity, loyalty, or convenience. Meanwhile, Jaidyn remains permanently connected through children, history, and financial ties, making her impossible to remove from the narrative, regardless of romantic status. And then there's the most emotionally impacted name. Chrisean appears to be the most emotionally affected, because her involvement with Blueface was highly public, deeply attached, and emotionally intense, making it harder for her to detach or transition quietly. Fans have suggested she appears to be the one currently excluded, and that her reactions online may be coming from a place of hurt, betrayal, or displacement, not just attention or drama. And that leads to one uncomfortable truth. The current situation doesn't resemble dating, commitment, or partnership. It looks more like real-life relationship roulette, where no one has clear boundaries, no one has confirmed exclusivity, and everyone is emotionally connected to the same source, creating an environment where confusion becomes normal. Which brings us straight into the larger conclusion. At this stage, this is not a love story, a triangle, or a relationship scenario. It's a social media-powered emotional carousel where position, loyalty, titles, and boundaries appear temporary and negotiable. Blueface seems comfortable, the internet seems exhausted, and everyone involved seems hurt, confused, or competing for validation, even if they won't admit it publicly. So now the only real question left is Blueface actually winning, or is everyone losing at the same time? Drop your thoughts below because this saga might not be ending. It might just be reloading.